Okay, we are at part 6 of the series. And in this one, we're going to have a pretty significant goal. A goal that a lot of producers and composers, they do struggle with. Because we have now composed a loop that we hopefully are all quite satisfied with. But we now want to turn this loop into an entire song. So we want to break out of this eventually. And how we are going to do this, I will have to tell you about a musical concept that is called musical form. And musical form, basically, you can think of musical form as a blueprint for the structure of your entire song. So what we can do now is say, okay, all of this is just makes up one section of our music. So only one component. And if you think about it, an entire musical piece is just made up of many of these sections. Because when we say this is section A, we give it a name, and this is what usually musical form, how it is described. You give it a name, mostly just a letter, and in our case, this would be section A. So what we can do now is say, we're gonna move from section A, we might want to change things up and move to a contrasting section that is called section B. So we have the following structure in our music. We can describe our entire song. Let's say our song goes from section A and then goes to section B, which is something different. And then it loops around. So we do, for our entire piece, we have a section that's called AB. Whereas each letter just is a signifier for contrasting sections. And by contrasting, I mean they do involve different ideas. Because this section would be made up by its chord progression, it would be made up by the melody, maybe by the drums. You know, all of this contributes to it being distinctly section A. So for it to be this section A, in section B, we would have to do something different. And the most obvious thing, or the most striking thing that you can probably change would be the melody. So let's say, for example, I simply copy everything over, but I change the melody, and all of a sudden, it will sound different. And it sounding different is what tells the listener, okay, we've just moved to a different section. And obviously, this is a very subjective thing, but I think you get the idea. The more you change, obviously, the more drastic the cut between the section will be. So we can also change, for example, the chord progression. We can do a change in the drum pattern, in maybe the speed of the drums, the energy of the drums. All of these are changes that contribute a very distinct change or transition to a different section. I mean, obviously, like, not every change that I do is going to be a change in sections. Because if I say I'll just copy everything, leave everything as it is, and just remove the drums, this probably wouldn't be a big enough change. Not like the melody would be. This wouldn't be a big enough, or constitute to a big enough change for it to say, okay, you've now transitioned from section A to section B. Because this would most likely just be a variant of section A. So your job is not to simply change things up in whichever way you please, if you want to change section, but to really provide something different for the listener. Because in the end, your goal is to break out of this monotony, that if you play this over and over again, you will get tired. And just give the listener a change of pace. This is basically all you have to do. So with that wisdom bestowed upon you, we can actually go ahead and write a new section for our music. And the good thing about this is actually that I don't have to explain that much how it works, because it's basically the same process that I have already shown you. You might want to think about what you want to change in your section, in the sense that you might want to say, okay, let's speed it up a little bit, give it a little bit more energy, or slow it down a little bit. And then you basically just start the entire process all over again, from picking your chords to, I don't know, doing something interesting with the rhythm, then going to the melody and so on and so forth. So for us, we can actually just go to our handy website again and start from the beginning. Now I want to walk you through very quickly on a few things that you can change for the new section. So for section A, we have C, G, C, F. And for section B, you don't even have to completely change to different chords. So you can use a G, C, you can use a G, you can use an F, and you can still make it sound different simply by rearranging them, for example. So this could be one technique, just simply saying, okay, I put an F where the C was, and this will very clearly mark a transition in the music. What you can also do is make them longer, for example. So just say, okay, this one is going to take up, this is going to be a 2F, and then it goes to 2C. So all of a sudden the chord change only happens in 2 bars. And this could also be a change that can signify a transition between sections. But for me, I do want to introduce some melancholy, some darkness into my piece. So I might say I want to go to D minor. We haven't used this. I want something drastic. Then to G. Then we use A minor again, and then to the F. Let's see how that sounds. Okay, nice. Yeah, and I'm done. So let me export this, and I will see you back in Ableton. Okay, I've now put in the chords of section B into Ableton, and I think that's actually it for this part, because what I want you to do now is you simply do the exact same steps that you already have done for section A, and just do something different with section B and see what you can come up with. And don't worry too much about this transition here between the sections. Just think of this as this being independent for now from this. I mean, obviously don't do something completely different, but don't worry for now about whatever happens between the sections. But yeah, in the meantime, I will do the same, and I will come back to you with my own B sections, and I will show you in the next video. And then I'm gonna explain to you how we can use the ideas that we have from both of these sections, how we can arrange them in different ways so that we can actually make an entire piece out of only these 2 sections. Because believe it or not, a lot of music, especially in video games, they follow a pattern that only has 2 sections, an A and a B. So I'm hoping you're looking forward to this, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.